Hello out there, my name is Laolu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. Today is your take where I share feedback from you, our viewers. Here we go. The first one is on the edition of my take where I started to read out the names of the victims in the recent genocidal killings in Plateau State, the ZK killings in April specifically. We have a feedback from Mr. Ifeanyi Mbanefo, a former senior NLLG executive. He posted this on a WhatsApp group. This is what he said. Sometimes when you think all hope is lost, you wake up to a piece of excellent journalism. Pastor Laolu Akonde, this is journalism at its best. Take your flowers. Your report will hopefully rehumanize our public space and elevate the victims beyond mere statistics. 100 killed in Plateau and Benue. Who is training our copy editors? What happened to their humanity? 10 persons and 3 outsiders died, brand of journalism, Abi? Rebecca Sonnet, writer and activist, wrote a fine book titled Call It By Its True Name. Every journalist should get a copy. In it, she said, and now is quoted, changing the world means changing the story. The names and the languages with which we describe it, calling things by their true names, cuts through the lies that excuse, disguise, avoid, or encourage inaction, indifference, obliviousness in the face of injustice and violence. Unquote. Again, thank you, my brother. Someone will say your name, plead your case before God, and everywhere it is needed. There are 7 traditionally recognized corporal work of mercy. Your report is the 8th. Keep well. Thank you so much, Mr. Mbanefo, for that very thoughtful comment. We go on to the next comment. This is on the edition that featured retired General Anthony Atolagbe. This is from Stephen Okpanachi from YouTube. Laolu, I have a lot of respect for you for balancing your reports. Don't allow the general let you twist the narrative for fear of consequences because he's retired. You set the record straight from your introduction. It is clear that this is genocide and shying away from the truth. You said the vice president assured the people of justice in 2018. The question begging for answers is, was that justice served? That's very true. Good question. And finally, I want to share with our viewers a general post by Senator Ben Bruce of a picture of himself and Governor Donald Duke that was taken at the construction site of the controversial Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project. Bruce said, and I quote him, "Tinubu is doing wonders. Today I visited the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road construction site with my good friend, the former governor of Cross Rivers, His Excellency Donald Duke. The project is truly magnificent and unlike any other. Upon completion, it will undoubtedly be recognized as one of the greatest infrastructure wonders of our time." Unquote. That was what Ben Bruce said. So I shared that post with Governor Duke, who immediately responded to me, and this was what he said. And I quote him, "Ben is using me for money ritual to please Bola Tinubu. I never endorsed a project that never went through due process." I couldn't stop laughing. Who doesn't know that the distinguished Senator Bruce is a top-notch clown? And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back with a more serious issue. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we are leading with a conversation on what has been happening in north-central Nigeria, specifically the states of Plateau. Now, Governor Caleb Mutfwang told the whole nation that genocide is taking place. He also said that over 62 or thereabout communities are being occupied. So today, we want to talk about that occupation with the people who come from some of those occupied places to join us in that conversation. Because it's important for us to keep an eye on what it is that is happening in our country. We have to keep an eye because justice must remain at the cornerstone of governance. So if a group of Nigerians don't see justice, we need to pay attention to it. So to join me in that important conversation today, I have three gentlemen, one of them starting right here in the studio, Barrister Reze Jugo, who is a board member of the Irigwe Development Association. Barrister, you're welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here again.
Thank you. The last time it was virtual, but now you're here.
Yes, sir.
Now, joining us virtually, I also have two other gentlemen representing different communities in Plateau State, you know, communities that are affected by what we're talking about. I'd like to welcome Dr. Justice Chingedodo. Dr. Justice Chingedodo, you're welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you so much. Good morning, viewers, and it's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. We also have finally also virtually Barrister Daliop Solomon Wantiri, who is the national president of the Berom Youth Molder Association, the national president of the Berom Youth Molder Association, Barrister Solomon Wantiri. Barrister, welcome to Inside Sources.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here. Good morning, listeners and viewers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's start with Barrister Jugo, who is here with me. So the governor of Plateau State said there are over 60 communities that have been occupied. I also have here a statement made by a group of community associations in Plateau, Ataka, Berom, Irigwe, Wangulu, and Ron, if I call them right, you know, where they said that about 151 communities, you know, actually now the number has gone up to 154 communities that are either occupied or where the land has been grabbed. So I want you to tell our viewers exactly what is happening in some of these places. What is the fate of the people? You know, is it that the people have been completely, scared out of their land, or is it that there is some kind of new colonial system where the people that took the land are now calling the shots? Just give us, you know, a glimpse of what is happening.
Well, thank you very much. In answering your question, it would be nice to situate where all of this started. So to speak, a historical context for the question. Plateau State, like you know, is on the plateau. It's a great place for all kinds of, you know, animal husbandry, right, you know, for farming and all of that. So over time, you know, from the days of our forefathers, we knew that the place was very fertile. It gave room for a lot of feeding people. It fed people across Plateau State and even beyond. It made for good settlement. People left wherever they are till today. As a matter of fact, once in a while you find people, you know, trying to make sure that they migrate into the city centers because they feel at home. Now, over time, that, you know, the neighbors were mostly individuals who were pastoralists, who could get around and could make sure that they could feed and graze. Because, of course, when you're farming, you're going to have chaff at the end of the day, and you need to be able to dispose of it. And the relationship was symbiotic and it was great. But there came a time where we no longer, the relationship and what used to keep that balance was no longer there.
I mean, thank you so much. Before we go to our guest on the virtual guest, I have here a statement that was made by a number of the groups, you know, communities affected. And, you know, they are saying that terrorists and bandits and some militants, allegedly Fulani militants, have taken over 150 communities. For instance, it says here that Kukwa in Bassa local government was annexed, you know, in 2017. You know, now this is what the communities are alleging, and I want to just go through it. It says that Ratsu, in Bassa local government was also annexed by 2017. It keeps on going and going. Rotsu, yeah. A long list. For instance, it says Ganda in Darfur, Bokos in 2018 was annexed. That is what this statement is alleging. It goes on, Tamiso of Mango in Bokos was annexed. They put a specific date in that particular case. They said December 26, 2023. That was when Tamiso of Mango was annexed. We have Lungai of Mango, Ugamom of Mango. We have places in Riom. In fact, there is one, Rochun. Rochun, they are alleging that in October 2001, that place was actually renamed from Rochun in Riom to Rafin Acha. This is what the communities are alleging that is happening. Of course, we know that the governor himself said that there are 62 communities, but we have not seen the list. But here you have a group of the communities coming together to draw up a list. And it goes on and on. Rankum Village, Darin, Janda, Shong, Palang, Kasav, Shonong, Cook of Shonong. Goes on and on and on with dates of when the alleged annexation has taken place. And I'm using the word alleged just to be, a little bit cautious. The governor of the state himself has told us that over 60 communities in Plateau State have been totally occupied. So I want to ask you, Mr. Jugo, this statement was initially made May of last year.
That's correct.
About 151 communities, hamlets and communities that were either totally occupied or where where you guys are alleging that there is land grabbing.
Yes. My
question is that has the situation changed between that time you issued this press release and now?
No. If anything, it is getting worse. Just today, I got at least 3 more, 3 more communities in Bassa local government that have also suffered the same fate. And why is that? Because nobody has been brought to book. When justice is not done and seen to be done, you're going to have perpetrators having a field day. They walk into those places with impunity. There's no fear. Nobody is going to touch anyone. No one is going to bring them to book. So they go on and they do what they want, when they want, how they want to go about it.
Okay. All right. So let's engage our Zoom guest. Let's start with Dr. Justice Chinde Dodo, who is also a member of the Irigwe Youth Movement. Dr. Chinge, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. So I want to ask you, in terms of some of this thing that is going on, what is your own personal experience, and how do you describe what Nigerians have come to learn about that is happening in Plateau? Doctor.
The situation, I tell you, my brother, is horrific, terrible, and very unfortunate. It's a signal that if care is not taken, we'll soon wake up to a nation where lawlessness, where anarchy, where rule of men instead of rule of law governs the society. Because how else on earth do you explain a situation whereby cities and several communities are being overrun by terrorists, by land grabbers, and yet nothing practical is being done? All we see every day is a cycle of a system, a strategy that is not working. What will normally happen is that the community is attacked and then government issue out a statement with the famous "enough is enough." And we have never seen anything that is enough ever since the killings, especially of our people, began in 2017 in earnest. We have seen a cycle where continuously things happen, and then it's as if there are a series of speeches that are written, waiting for an incident to happen, and then such a statement is issued to suit the attack that has happened, and then practically things are not getting in order, things are getting out of hand instead. From 2017, to be precise to date, we have had about 9 of our community. I speak for the Irigwe community in Bassa local government. Bassa is a heterogeneous local government. We have various ethnic groups, but I belong to the Irigwe ethnic stock. And like you said, I am not just a member of the Irigwe youth movement. I was once the national president of the Irigwe youth movement, and the experience is so terrible. It's so shameful. It's embarrassing. People gradually are losing hope in this thing we call government. People are losing hope in the ability of the state to handle situation, to deliver justice, and to protect lives and properties, which is the basic essence of government anywhere in the world. Things are not getting as expected by the people, because increasingly the number of people attacked keeps increasing. Communities that are sacked keeps increasing. Honestly speaking, our people are not happy. We are a terrified people. We are people who are feeling traumatized. We are people who are feeling alienated. We are people who are psychologically traumatized, and the situation is bad, is ugly. And there seems to be no solution to this, except for the fact that gradually people are beginning to feel that increasingly it is either you wake up and defend yourself, or you are defenseless forever.
Okay. I mean, Dr. Chinge, thank you so much. I want to ask you, so the people whose lands, some of your community people whose land have been taken over, or grabbed, what happens to them? Can you just tell me what happens to them? Where are they? What are they doing? Are they still living with the communities? What's their fate? Speak to that briefly.
There are levels of land grabbing on the plateau. In category A are communities that have been sacked, and then the terrorists come back to occupy, raise structure, and then occupy those structures that have been abandoned. On level 2 are communities that have been sacked, yet they're able to go back and farm, and when they go back to farm, when the crops are about to yield the fruits, the terrorists, the group of attackers will still come back and then mow the entire, destroy the farm crops. And on the level number 3 are communities that have been sacked, but structures have not been raised, and then they cannot go back to the farm, because when you dare move to go back and till the land, you get killed, you get chased away by this by these attackers, by these terrorists. This is the situation at hand amongst our people.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's take it to Barrister Solomon Wantiri, who is the president of the Birom Youth Molder Association. I'd like to ask you, Barrister Solomon, that, look, so what's your own take? What kind of suffering have you seen the people whose land have been taken, whose communities have been occupied? What has been your experience? How do you describe their fate?
Well, our people who have suffered series of attacks and displacement from the act of terrorism, banditry, and other forms of aggression meted out by Fulani militants has been very, very devastating. The people are in abject poverty. In short, they are daily living as beggars in their own land. And of course, we've not seen any deliberate attention given to these individuals who have been rendered homeless, vulnerable, and vulnerable in the sense that even at where they have been displaced to, the militants will still go after them. And you discover that an individual will be displaced like 3 or 4 times. What I mean here is, after displacement from point 1, he goes to take refuge in point B. And in point B, he will still be attacked, and he will, if he is able to survive it, he moves to point C. And we've had that, and it has been like a recurring dismal. Of course, the situation is very pathetic. Some have died not as a result of gunshots at the IDP camps or where they've been hosted, but some have died as a result of going out, to fend for their families, engaging themselves in menial jobs in order to earn a living. And I remember some have died in accidents, some have died in mining sites, mining ponds, Some have even died, as a result of attacks that were carried out by the militants on mining sites. So the situation, looking at it holistically, it has not been an appealing one. It has been the people are summarily in a very sorry state. And that is why every day we keep calling on the appropriate authorities to act so that these people will be given a sense of belonging. But of course, we've cried out aloud and nothing has been done so far, except maybe at some point, few relief materials are brought. And this relief material, it will interest you that someone who was living independently has now been subjected to a perpetual beggar, where one intervention comes a year. He receives only like 4 or 10 measures of rice and guinea corn. And then this thing cannot even take him for a month. What happens after he consumes that one? So that is the situation of the people. And then, of course, there have been, closure of schools. And one thing that I've also observed with the bandits and the terrorists that have been ravaging our villages and communities is that they make sure that all schools, hospitals, and other facilities that are within those affected villages are either taken over or are demolished. And once they are demolished, it therefore means these people cannot get themselves enrolled into any school. And so there have been a large dropout of students. And then what happens at the end of the day? They expose themselves because of the environment they found themselves in, no attention given to them. They enroll themselves into all sorts of social vices. So the situation has been very, very pathetic. And of course, that is what we found ourselves in. And as I'm talking to you as an affected person, because that Rankum that you've named, that you've mentioned,
yes,
which is from Rio, that we rename as Mahanga, the notorious Mahanga that is not all over the country and internationally, is where I came from. Because I'm a native of Jol community, and Rankum, which has been renamed as Mahanga, is in short, it has been described as a terrorist enclave. Because even 3 days ago, there was a report in circulation that more bandits from Nasarawa, Bauchi, and Kaduna have been brought into, Manga was also mentioned, and other parts of the state, to continue with the onslaught they have been known for. And then, of course, we are expecting to have seen full deployment of security and maximization of maximizing kinetic approach, so that these terrorists will know that they cannot just get away after committing such heinous crime. But what we see, arrests are made, and then we hear pressures from above calling for the release of bandits. Recently, there was one that was arrested in Barikiladi, named just with her. And then, of course, from the sources we've gathered availably, that this is someone that has direct connection with Bello Turji. He is the direct agent of Bello Turji. Yes, Bello Turji of Zamfara. He is a direct agent of Bello Turji on the Plateau to establish terrorist cells, in the state.
And so he was arrested, and what happened after he was arrested? What happened after he was arrested?
We've not heard of anything again, except we've heard that pressure are coming for the release of such a person. And as of yesterday, thank God we had an engagement with the GOC, who assured us that justice will be upheld firmly. And then the question we raised there is that how will an individual who has been arrested with arms, who has been fingered in all sorts of terrorism, who has been fingered in supplying of arms and has a connection with one of the high-profile bandits in the country, and have been arrested, and then we've not heard of further arrests? Not that the people he have supplied the arms, by our belief, not that people he have supplied those arms to have fled, they are still around. And we've not seen further arrests or further effort to have these people identified and arrested. But what we are seeing in this part of the world is very, very unfortunate. That terrorists who have been known, who have been arrested, and thereafter released, they come in and brag their shoulders. It will interest the world to know that there was one of them. In short, there are many that were one time arrested. They were released without any trial.
When was that?
And when they did it,
when was that, Mr. Solomon?
in short, it appears one was released even last year. 2 years ago, one was released. And then 3 years ago, one was released. And when they return with celebration, with even firing of gunshots.
They will come back to the community.
Yes, because nobody could do them anything. And is that not impliedly an encouragement to act of terrorism to continue in this part of the world? So the situation of the people whose lands have been taken over, we have not yet seen hope.
Okay.
We have not yet seen hope.
All right.
And that is why we are calling that let government willpower be set in motion so that these people will actually believe that government is alive to its responsibility.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Wantiri. Just to wrap it up, I'll bring it back to Barrister Jugo. So a lot of the concerns that people have expressed, is about the law enforcement agencies being able to do their work independently, even the military trying to have an even-handed approach. And I'm happy that the president of the Bureau of News Association, has spoken very well of the GOC that he mentioned, who assured that there will be justice. We do need that assurance, and we do need our law enforcement agencies to understand their role in the pursuit of justice. But the final question I'd like to ask you is that when the governor said that this is genocide,
yes.
You are a lawyer, barrister. Genocide is recognized internationally as a crime against, how do they call it? Crime against humanity. And have you guys thought about, and I know that there are all kinds of movements and organizations that you guys are doing all over across Benue, Plateau, and even some other parts of the country. Have you considered, how you guys can assert your rights, even internationally? Because, genocide is an international war crime.
Yes. Let me say very clearly that, when we take this with levity, we seem to forget that, there's a UN Declaration of Human Rights of Indigenous People that provides for the protection of traditional lands and cultural practices. There's an African Charter on Human and People's Rights, as ratified by Nigeria, that protects the collective rights and existence of and cultural identity. We have the UN Guiding Principles of Internal Displacement, outline responsibilities towards displaced populations. We have all of these things. We have the Article 3 of the Geneva Convention prohibiting violence against non-combatants. Sir, I say very clearly that there has been an abuse in country of the citizens of Nigeria as situated in this place.
Yeah, but
and this is why.
What are you guys doing about
this is why.
As a group coming together.
And this is why we have decided that we're going to take it all the way to the ICC. We're taking it everywhere. We're taking it to ECOWAS. As we speak right now, even in Plateau State, as we were talking, there have been committees, some of which we're also part of, where there's right now a coalition of all the names, the towns, the perpetrators, and we're making the case, we're taking it to the highest level. And why are we doing this, sir? I will tell you, do not forget that even though these crimes are also domestic, we're talking about violations of Section 43 that has to do with the rights of everyone to acquire and possess immovable land.
Right.
We're talking about Section 33 that has to do with the right to life. We're talking about, the abuse of the Land Use Act 1978. Even though all of these things can be prosecuted in country, we have lost faith. So what do we do as a people? What do you do when you lose faith? You try to also take it to authorities, or you make sure that that people and institutions that are outside of this country also get the message that there's a genocide happening in Plateau State in the Middle Belt, and somebody somewhere has to say something to Mr. President.
I believe that Nigeria will end this alarming situation in the North Central and in several other parts of our country. Thank you so much again, Mr. Jugo, Mr. Wantiri, and Dr. Chinge for coming to Inside Sources. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. We'd like to have a short discussion on the intersection between business and human rights. Recently, a few days ago, the Human Rights Commission actually had an event where the Commission launched a document that clearly states that this is something that is going to be important for the federal government, especially with what we are hearing about transforming the Nigeria economy to $1 trillion economy. To discuss that quickly with me today, I have the Deputy Director Legal from the Human Rights Commission, Pwadumdi Oko. You're welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, Mr.
All right.
Laolu.
All the killings that we are seeing in Plateau, in Benue states, where people's land has been taken, a kind of occupation, is that an area of concern for the Human Rights Commission?
When it comes to issues of right to life, where lives are being taken, of course, it's something that the Commission is concerned about, because that's a violation of your fundamental right to life. No one has a right to violate your right to life, except the state and in special circumstance within a democratic framework. So it's something that the Commission is concerned about, and the Commission is looking into it. Okay,
all right, good. That's reassuring. Now let's talk about the intersection between business and human rights. Like we said, a lot of things are taken for granted, and I hope some of them have not even become cultural. People start businesses that has a lot of violations for the way and the livelihood of people, degradation of their environment, mining sites, all the exposure to the dangers and and all of those kinds of things without adequate attention. So when we hear that this is something that the Human Rights Commission is focused on, it's quite exciting. So can you tell us, what are the big ticket items, that we should expect the practice of human rights and business to change?
Okay, so before I continue, let me just say that the Commission had this program a few days ago, Monday and Tuesday, precisely in collaboration with the UNDP, UN Global Compact, the Federal Foreign Commonwealth Development Partners of the UK, and other partners. And we understood the fact that it's not something that we can do alone, and it's something that everybody has to come on board. A lot of businesses were there, government agencies were there also. And what that document seeks to speak to is the fact that business and human rights, there is intersection between business and human rights, because a whole lot of people used to feel that there's no business of human rights, there's no rights when you're coming. I mean, the government has no business doing business, or there's no human right is human right, business is business. You're there to do profits. To do their business. Exactly. But we've come to disagree to the fact that though business is a force of good, but it can also violate lots of rights. And that's why we have the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights that has 3 pillars. Okay. And the 3 pillars, one of the first one is that the state, that's the government, has a duty to protect human rights. Now, the businesses themselves are not exempted because they also have a responsibility to respect human rights. Right. And where rights are violated in the course of your doing business, you are mandated to have access to remedy. Effective and speedy remedy should be provided for those whose rights have been violated in the course of doing business. Now, that discussion had been on, and it's a fallout of the United Nations Development, United Nations Guiding Principle on Business and Human Rights, where every state had been mandated to carry out or have their own NAP, which is context specific. We can't go and have a NAP that is speaking about issues. By NAP, you mean National Action Plan. Yes. We can't go and have a NAP that is speaking to issues that are outside the territorial integrity of your country. So what you're supposed to do is look at what is prevalent in your country and draft a NAP, which is a federal government policy, that will help businesses, that will guide businesses to be able to mainstream human rights in the course of their operation. So one of the things that document talks about when it comes to businesses, for them to respect human rights, is the fact that you need to conduct what we call a human rights impact assessment.
Okay.
You need to have human rights due diligence.
Not just environmental impact assessment.
Exactly. We also have human rights impact assessment.
Okay.
And what that does is, it makes you to look into the business you're going to do a survey, do a research, do analysis. What are the possible human rights implications of my action, of my business? What rights am I likely going to affect in the course of doing business? And then you take steps to mitigate the risk that will be involved. Because the world is changing.
Yeah.
Things are evolving. Right. It's going to go to a point, especially if you want to be exporting, where it will be looked at, your supply chain will be looked at. If it has been discovered that in the course of your operation, down the line, you violated rights, your goods will not be in the market. Nobody will patronize you anymore. So it is an intelligent thing to mainstream human rights into your operation for purposes of sustainability.
Right.
If you don't do that, I am sure your business will soon go out of extinction. So human rights in business is something that is a force of good for even the businesses themselves.
Excellent, excellent. So from your experience and how you guys came about the document, how do you describe the response of the business community to this?
Okay, it's very interesting really, because this document was actually drafted in collaboration and in consultation with the businesses, and because that's one of the principles of that document, that there must be a co-creation. Okay. Businesses are stakeholders, even when the document was being drafted. Right. So they're very much aware, that they have a responsibility. Right. I know before even the document, the country, let me even point out that in the whole of Africa, Nigeria is the third country to have that document.
Interesting.
So it's something that we can pride ourselves in, that at least the country is doing something good. At least to try and see that the business sector is sanitized and people begin to respect human rights.
Top vision is not bad. It's just that our parents want us to be first.
Yes, indeed. Because we got to know about it, not. So, like we say, it doesn't matter how or when you heard about it, but the fact that you're doing something, immediately you heard about it, to make sure that you have a business guide to guide businesses to respect human rights in the course of their operation.
You have to bring it back, for a full discussion. But thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your contributions.
Thank you.
And there you have it. We're going to have one more segment where we'll be discussing what leadership should do in situations of crisis, which, as you can see, we have in many instances in our country. Inside Sources, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. In this final segment, like I said, we want to look at the question of the challenge that leadership faces in times of crisis. And there are two important crises that we want to look at: insecurity and corruption. To join me in that important discussion, I have a former lecturer for over a decade at the University of Kansas, United States, who was also a former director at the EFCC, and who is currently a visiting professor at the Sultan Macedo Institute of Peace, Leadership and Development here at the University of Abuja. I'd like to welcome back to Inside Sources Professor Aminu Ibrahim Guzo, MNI.
MNI. Thank you, sir.
It's important we remind Nigerians about MNI.
MNI, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you for coming, Prof.
Thank you, sir.
So, we have quite a few issues that have become a crisis in our country. Corruption is one, and insecurity seems to become, So I'd like to ask you, because I know that you have a lot of focus on leadership, looking at your pedigree and profile. What ought to be the role of our leadership when we have a crisis, especially insecurity? What should leadership be doing?
Thank you very much. Now, let's look at what development is all about. Basically, development is improving our activities to benefit people. Now, without factoring ourselves, in other words, without being selfish in the kind of methodology we adopted to achieve that. Now, having said this, coming to the question of leadership, especially in times of crisis, with or without crisis, leadership always stands to be leadership. Now, there are certain factors that really, in every aspect, you see, leadership, sometimes people will look at it from the top. For example, like government officials, like president, like
Governors,
in the
ministers.
states, commissioners, ministers. That's not the case. Leadership, we don't look at it from that perspective. However, elective officials, whenever they become leaders, they have signed a contract with the people to lead them.
Yeah.
So that trust between leaders and followers is already there. That one is on, you can't compromise that.
Okay.
But the bottom line, the followers, who we, the
Yes.
commoners, you know, we definitely have to adopt in ourselves. What kind of, not only adopt, but understand what leadership is demanded from us.
Okay.
So we can't sit down.
So followers also have to lead.
They really have to lead. They have to provide the platform. Now, you may look, anyhow you look at it. Are you looking at a society leadership from bottom to top, or are you looking at it from top to bottom? Now, when you look at the issue, for example, of our country, oh yes, all our top leaders, effective leaders, we really expect, you know, exemplary leadership.
Yeah.
But that notwithstanding, and when I do my lectures, you know, on leadership for decades, you know, I always tell the people, don't waste your time. If, for example, your organization sent you for a capacity building in terms of leadership, do not look at it from a perspective of saying, oh, the country leadership is not doing its job, and then why is it so expected? The question now is, when your organization paid for you to come for this workshop or what have you, why don't you focus on that? And I tell them, I said, look, why don't you enter into your office or cubicle or what? Do what you think is there to sustain your organization. That is how we combine every individual. Of course, there are people who probably either ignorance or they have not had that opportunity, because leadership is learned. So if you have people who have not really learned, then we have to find special methodology to be able to make them understand. But if they don't understand and we let them, that's another portion that we're really leaving behind.
So leadership has to be learned. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are we going to continue all the time to talk about leadership as the leadership in the 21st century? And that's why we have something now, and they said it right, leadership in the new normal, or leadership in the moment. Why? Is because you have to train leaders. There are so many trends coming. There's a changing world, changing in dynamics. You know, if we don't understand that, we don't prepare leaders for that, to be on top of those emerging trends. We can't say and look at leadership from the advent of the 21st century. No, every time leadership is changing.
Interesting, because...
yes, and one important thing before I forget, one of the top paradigm shift in leadership is the emergence of EQ.
Of what?
EQ, emotional intelligence.
Okay, EQ.
As against what we used to adopt as the IQ. So, and the EQ now...
So the EQ is rising higher than the high Q.
Absolutely. And when you look at the EQ, and that's the fantastic aspect of EQ, it makes you to understand that, it makes you, because basically emotional intelligence is a leader's or a person's ability to manage his or her emotions as well as the emotions of others. Number one. Number two, there is a research that really, at the advent of the century, that shows that every person within an organizational setup is a leader in his or her own right. Going down from physical supervision. Physical supervision, how many people would you really have to supervise everyone? But create an atmosphere, create an environment
where people can
for
use
even somebody
initiative.
who sweeps the floor make him to understand he's a leader in his or her own right.
Prof, I want to follow up on something you said about, and this has been quite insightful. What you said about, that leadership has to be learned. I wanted to ask you that, does that mean that we should, because political leadership takes the cake?
Yes.
Just like you said, social contract that says that, look, we give you our rights. You, those of you that you are elected in government, take control of all the things, and they become leaders. And I agree with you that, all of us have leadership roles to play. Do we need to have a system where our leaders who go into politics are trained? Because, just before you respond, because I have interacted with a few of them, especially people in the National Assembly, and even people who become ministers. They don't have there are those that are equipped, but you have very good number of those who have no idea how to lead in public, who don't even know what is expected, and you find situations where ministers, representatives, lawmakers, and other, capacity of leadership, they are learning on the job. Is it ideal to learn on the job, or people should be trained properly for leadership before they get into offices? Prof.
Well, to be very honest, Mr. Lawali, you have really touched a very important segment of really what leadership is all about in relationship to our elective, not even elective, even appointed leaders. Now, I have been personally advocating for that. Now, when somebody, for example, is being elected in a position, remember how sensitive that position is.
Yeah.
You are coming to represent people. There is no joke. And you are coming, and hopefully you are even expected to add, those aspects we have talked about, new paradigm, emotional intelligence, and what have you, and what have you.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about it, how can you do it?
Yeah.
How can you do it? So, coming to honestly speaking, and I'm now talking about every aspect of leadership. And when I talk about the paradigm shift, and let me also reflect on your first question, whether it's learned. Yes, it's learned. The new paradigm, progressive countries are picking all this. And we have the platform on that. Take, for example, technical know-how alone does not determine to become a leader.
A good leader, yeah.
It can be a bonus if you already understand the special skills of what leadership is all about. You can take somebody who is really an administrator in Coca-Cola industry, and you can bring that person to head, for example, NNPC or any major thing. He didn't know anything, or she didn't know anything about what NNPC is all about, rather than administering Coca-Cola. And that person can come and be the best leader in the record, in that organization. So yes, we encourage even those with technical know-how to understand what that leadership is all about. Not only understanding, but work very hard to work on it. So I agree with you. Take for even appointments in government. There is need, to have, what do you call that, first day, whether you call it under orientation, or induction. That's the word I'm looking for. Induction, special induction. Get some people, experts. We got them a lot in Nigeria. Come and do this, and we follow that.
Okay.
So it's very important, and that's what I mean by the learning aspect.
All right. Okay. I want to, because of our time and we are wrapping up, this will be the last question. You were a director of organizational support at the EFCC for quite a number of years.
Yes.
And did excellently, by the way. Do you think that we are battling the problem of corruption in the right way that we ought to? Are the leaders showing good examples in that fight, Prof?
Oh, thank you very much. You see, the EFCC, well, I'm no longer working with that, but I'm always by the sideline, always hoping and being very happy to see it progressing. And to be very honest, I can tell you that I'm really impressed. Now, when I was there, I think about 8 special units under my control, and we worked very hard. And the current chairman was actually the number 2 at that time. So we mutually work. I work under him,
Okay.
but I was heading the largest department,
Okay.
in the entire EFCC. And we work very, very hard. Now, like I've mentioned this too, even criminality is changing its own color, meaning new emergence of trends appearing.
Yeah. New criminal trends.
New criminal, exactly, criminal trends.
Digital.
Now that's why adoptive leadership is very, very important, so that we are adapting to the changing environment. Now, people should be very fair when they look at places like the EFCC. Very, very fair. We were there. We sold, we committed our lives dedicatedly to be sure that really we're human beings.
Yeah.
We all have our weaknesses, but we try to do the best we can do. And honestly speaking, I have been watching situation that is what is going on. Now, one important aspect, everywhere you go, definitely you have to look at the staff.
Right.
What are their problems? What are things you do within the law
Right.
to address or to motivate the staff?
Right.
That is currently happening.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
The chairman didn't even know. We haven't spoken, for a long, long, long time. But he didn't know I'm definitely going to be here, rather than saying, but it's my own knowledge of what really I thought about that. And then reforms is really happening. Reform in a sense that because this is an institution that is improving, by the day, expanding in another word.
Well, but I didn't want you to limit your answer to only EFCC. I just wanted to look at how we are fighting corruption, and the what is the role of the examples that the people at the top set.
Yeah, well, you see,
Is there such a thing as leadership by example?
no, and that's why I'm giving you an example where I know better.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
better, is the organization
True.
that I used to be.
True.
So, and like I said, and I'm saying that now, whether we say ICPC, I don't know much about, but I know they're all they work together,
Right,
mutual cooperation.
Yeah.
That kind of
And
thing.
there are other agencies
And
too.
there are other agencies, DIAs, they have code of conduct. You have so many of them.
Yeah.
So working together, because that working together is very important. That's how you are able to get the intelligence, sharing intelligence to be able to. But to be very honest, there are people you assume are leaders, and they are the one who will be messing up. And anytime ICPC or EFCC is really going to investigate, it becomes an enemy. And the first thing somebody will say is that leader in this thing, that leader is that. Take for example, like I said in EFCC, there are people, or these young people, sometimes if they are corrupt or they are caught in the course of their investigation, honestly speaking, they've been dismissed.
Right.
It happens during my time. So it is going on right now. So these are some, but then I don't know why, but people don't hear about that.
Yeah.
So people have the right, for example, if you have an issue and you are not helping any of this organization, if, for example, anybody is asking you something and you don't find a way to relate it down there, which means you are all part of that criminality I'm talking about. So it will take, if you don't talk, nobody will know actually what is going on. So the point, once again, because you want to pump up more on the leadership aspect, I would definitely say that from my perspective, now let me share something with you. Very, very important. It's only a leader who really understood very well that can be able to create an avenue to look at trends before they even happen. So the current EFCC, I think they have this thing, what they call, I think it's risk assessment and control
Okay.
department. What does it do? Now, meaning that EFCC, for example, is shying away from curative aspect to preventive aspect.
Yeah.
This department is there working with MDAs.
Okay.
Now, all the money coming, for example, to the MDAs before they head where they are supposed to be,
Right.
this department is looking to ensure
They are
that
aware.
rather than waiting until it happens. So there are so many examples I can give you,
Okay.
on this. And these are all, and then collaboration with, for example, NOAA, National
Orientation Agency, NOA.
It's one big organization. And then you also have, in the curative aspect as well, during when we were all there as a team, and there's that time Magu was the head of, what do you call it?
Okay.
And then, of course, Ola was the secretary, was the number 2 there.
Right.
There's a full collaboration, with the judiciary.
Okay.
The whole idea is for the judiciary to understand the work of EFCC. So that, it can, we are not saying that, or they are not saying that, give us, be favorable to us in terms of, we have a case. But rather understand, brother,
Let's collaborate.
any leader who understands that act of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, we'll do very well.
One thing I want to say here, and I really want people to understand that every one of us, you work private sector, you work public sector, you are a judge, you are an administrator, you are a minister or what, there is one thing we're all targeting to leave behind, and that is called legacy. If you don't have a legacy, by the time you realize that or retired, the clock cannot come down. And people will look at you on how you wanted them to see you.
Thank you so much, Prof.
So-
It's a very good place to end it. Our time is short.
Yes.
This is an ongoing conversation.
Okay, good.
And I'd like you to know that we will bring you back.
Oh, I really
to
appreciate
continue
that.
this conversation. Thank you so much for coming to Inside Sources. And thank you for your services. The categories you've served in the AFCC, what you are doing currently with the University of Abuja. And thank you for coming back home from the US to come and help Nigeria.
No problem. Thank you,
so
my
much.
brother.
All
Thank
right.
you, sir.
All
Appreciate
right.
it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. It means Nigeria will win because we will not relent. We will talk about the major issues. And we are trusting and hoping that one day we get a good break. Thank you for watching. My name is Laolu Akonde. And by the grace of God, I'll see you at the next edition.